Hey everyone, welcome to Princess of Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with my blind reaction to Nimona. This is not a donation reward, but it is a weekly movie for this week. Because honestly, I didn't want to wait. it's it's pretty much as simple as that. No one requested this, which I'm actually a little surprised at. Because I've seen people in the Discord like hyping this up and everything. And I've been excited for it, so I'm surprised no one actually requested it, especially during like this double reward month. So since no one did, I'm just deciding to do it on my own. Our second movie this week, instead of a donation reward, is just going to be this. So I apologize to if you were hoping for and waiting for another dono reward. Uh, we'll be back to those after next week. Because as a reminder, next week is I'm going to be at TrotCon during the weekend, and I don't have enough time to record something like a movie ahead of time, because I'm not going to have much time during the week to record. But I've talked about all of that in like the video concerning the TrotCon week schedule, so you can check that out if you want more info. So Nimona. Nimona was originally created, I believe, as a comic by N.D. Stevenson, the same creator of She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. It is now adapted into a movie on Netflix, just came out today. I don't know how much direct input N.D. had in this, so I don't know like exactly how accurate it would be to the comic, but I've never read the comic, and all I know about this is like what I know from like the basic synopsis, and like I think I saw one trailer and maybe one tiny clip. That's about it. So all I know about this is that it's about a young girl who I assume is named Nimona, who is to some degree a shapeshifter. I don't know like the all of the details behind it, but I'm sure we'll find out like how it happened or what the deal with that is. And she teams up with, I think he's a knight, I want to say. And that's about all I know. I also know that she's voiced by Chloe Grace Moretz, who I know from things like the Kick-Ass movies. She's Hit Girl. But she's been in various other things too. She was in a Carrie remake, Stephen King's Carrie. She was in a remake of that too. She's a pretty good actress. I don't know if I've heard her do any voice roles before, though. I genuinely don't know. I might have. It's hard to say. I don't know who else is in this, though. I know, like, Nimona, like, has this wild child kind of personality. The knight just seems to be, like, kind of weirded out by her. That's kind of the vibes I got from it. So I don't know exactly what to expect with the story or how it's all going to go. I'm just here for the ride. I'm here for the ride, you know? I'm hoping to like this. I'm hoping to find this to be really enjoyable. And hopefully it ends up just being a good movie. Because I am excited for it. From the little bit I've seen of it, it looks good. I don't even know what I would compare it to. Even in just terms of recent years with animation and all. But maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's just going to stand out on its own. So, all of that being said, excuse me. All of that being said, we're just going to get into this and hope for the best. And hopefully I end up really enjoying this. I mean, I love She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, so I know I like other stuff that N.D. Stevenson has done. I don't know what else they've done offhand. I think the only things I know for sure are just these two things. I don't know. But either way, we're going to get into this and see what this movie has in store for us. So, when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black, then fades back in, Everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the movie. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. Okay, and we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, I'm kind of wondering. We obviously know that stuff at the beginning, the story that was being told about Glorith and everything, we know that was basically revisionist history to a degree. But I'm kind of wondering if Glorith ever actually felt bad about what she had done and everything. But it's hard to say. It's hard to say because we don't really get a lot of information on where that went. All we know is that she trained the knights and everything, like basically created this walled kingdom. And yeah, she was a pretty notable deal for kind of like becoming an icon in this world. So I very much wonder if there was ever any level of regret. I'm thinking not, though. I'm thinking that's kind of the point. That she was influenced as a kid to turn against her best friend. And she was influenced to believe as a monster, and that just led to that through her in life. And that's how she was raised. That's what she ended up continuing to believe, and how she died. Just believing those lies, that revisionism. And all because of the idea that these people just couldn't understand something different. We never really get a full explanation for Nimona. She was just, I guess, born this way. But we never find out anything about her parentage or origin outside of that. We just know that she was very young. She tried to fit in with all of these different species, and it wasn't working. And she eventually became a girl when she saw Glorith there. And then that didn't end up working out too well. So I do kind of wonder, like, origins. I wonder if that's in the graphic novel at all, if there's anything further with her origins. But either way, I think we found out the important bits that we really needed to. It's just a general curiosity that I have. Now, I looked up the cast, and most notably Eugene Lee Yang, because I was wondering about that, because the name sounded familiar. And he's exactly who I thought he was. Eugene Lee Yang is an American filmmaker, actor, producer, author, director, activist, and internet celebrity, best known for being from the YouTube group The Try Guys. It's like, that's exactly who I thought he was, Eugene from The Try Guys. And he, like, is well known for having this big coming out video. And so him playing a gay knight in this is fantastic. He gets to play a major character in this film who is gay and who is a genuinely good person, who does unfortunately get a little twisted by influences. And I'll talk more about that, of course. But yeah, he's also worked with BuzzFeed and whatnot, and is obviously a huge advocate for LGBT rights. But this movie, even outside of obviously Ballister and Ambrosius being a couple and everything, even outside of the very overt queer representation, this movie's entire theme and idea is rooted 100% in queer issues. The entire concept, the story, the basic themes that Nimona herself is centered around is entirely a queer allegory. And considering it's Indy Stevenson who created this character and this story and everything, that just makes sense. That just makes a lot of sense. Also, this premiered during Pride Month, so hey, there's that as well. I mean, it's still Pride Month currently, but yeah, you know what I mean. Actually, I think it's the last day of June today. Let me check to be sure, but I think the first is tomorrow. Yeah, the first is tomorrow. So literally the last day of June, the last day of Pride Month. I mean, it's still Pride Month though. But yeah, her entire story of being seen as bad, as wrong because she's different, and people refuse to understand that and refuse to even acknowledge the possibility of them being wrong. The idea that she's seen as an outsider, as something dangerous, as something problematic, and as well as the internalized self-hatred that she has for herself, with such as the line that it's like sometimes she wants to have that sword plunged into her heart and everything. It's very much a queer allegory. And anyone who's been a queer person for a good amount of time can attest to this, whether they're gay, whether they're pan, whether they're bi or lesbian, or especially trans. This is very much the kind of feelings I have gone through. Very much the emotional turmoil, the pain, the feeling of just not being understood or cared about. And yeah, sometimes we like kind of dive into that idea. We're treated like we're crazy, so we sometimes like just fully dive into that, and it's a coping mechanism. And it's hard. And we understand that it's maybe not the healthiest, but it helps us. And even just the idea of Nimona saying that she feels wrong when she tries to refuse to shapeshift, um, because it feels like a natural part of her. It feels like when she tries to hold it back, it's her rejecting herself basically. It's like it's very much that idea that we go through as queer people about like trying to pretend to be straight, pretend to be closeted. When we hold that back, when we hide who we are, it feels wrong and it hurts us. It's a worse pain than having an arrow in the leg. And it's something that I obviously personally understand, that I've gone through. And it's something that, at least for me, and I can't speak for every trans person, but at least for me, is something I didn't even entirely realize I was going through until afterwards. When I was growing up and everything, I was pushed so far by my parents, by society, by my church, to be so anti-queer that I actively pushed against anything that could be seen as that. So any thoughts I had towards that, I pushed away. Any anything that could be seen as that. And because of that, I always felt off. I always felt wrong. It sheltered me in a way. I became very reclusive. And other things led to that as well, of course, but I feel like it wouldn't have been as bad otherwise. I shrunk into myself and avoided a lot of people because of it. Because I didn't want that quote unquote temptation. And I feel like Nimona had gone through the same. She avoided people for a long time. Like, this was 1,000 years ago when all this happened with Glorith, right? And she's been living this entire time, somehow immortal, I guess, because of the same reason she can shapeshift. And she has had no one in that entire time. Then when she sees someone who possibly could help her, who understands her maybe, she jumps at that. For the first time in all of those years, she jumps at the idea that there's someone who might understand what it's like to be villainized. And yeah, it's hard. I Looking back on it, I've always kind of known I was a girl, and I've always kind of known I wasn't anywhere near straight. um, it's super obvious looking back on it. Hindsight is pretty crazy, but it's something that at the time refused to see because I didn't want to believe it because I was made to believe that it was wrong. So I refused to see it. I did everything in my power to not be queer. Everything in my power to actively avoid that. And that's why I didn't come out until I had already graduated. Until I was like in my late 20s. I obviously regret it in hindsight, but at the time I would have never like acknowledged it. But now it's like, yeah, I very much wish I hadn't done that. Like coming out a lot sooner than I did would have just helped a lot. I might not have even gone through the insane depression I did in 2013 because of that. I can't say for sure, but I might not have. It might have really helped my life in so many ways. And I know my parents wouldn't have been accepting of it. Like, back then especially, like, they're not really that accepting now. I know a lot of people around me wouldn't have been. I know the schools wouldn't have been. Churches wouldn't have been. Hell, I'd probably have been punished and probably been tried to be forced to go against that and all. It would have been hard, but it would have been better to know that I was myself at that time. To have that just sense of self, you know? And ever since I did come out in 2017, I very much have felt like Nimona feels in this movie. People have turned against me, people I thought were friends. And they made me feel like the monster they said I was. There have been many occasions where I felt like dying after coming out. Like, it's not just back in 2013, it's happened more recent. There's many points where I've had that thought, what if I just died like they've told me to? What if I just ended it and didn't have to go through all this pain and suffering anymore? And luckily, things kept me going and held me in. I don't know how to word this. I think I messed up on the wording. Held me together, let's put it that way. That's not what I was going for, but that works. But there's just so much that I obviously connect to here. And there's so much to it. There's like so much depth and power and emotion to it that it's like it's gone beyond the point of crying and reached the point of where I can't even cry about it because I've already done so. I have already cried those tears for years now. I have already cried those tears, and I just don't have those tears to cry anymore. I'm just at that point where I I'm obviously sad. I'm obviously This movie obviously upset me at points, in a good way, mind you. The movie very, very clearly touched me, but I'm just I'm beyond the point of being able to cry because I'm just so broken already by it all. And it's kind of fucked up that that's the case. And it's really not okay. Um I'm really not okay. And I acknowledge that, and I acknowledge that that's not healthy. But what am I supposed to do? I'm not going to fake it. I'm not going to pretend. Like, I'm not afraid to cry. Like, if I'm going to cry, I will let loose. And I teared up, but I didn't like fully cry because again, I'm I'm so beyond that point at this time that I couldn't cry anymore for this. And the fact that I've been driven to that just is fucked up. Um, Nimona's struggle and even Ballister's views on it, and the way even he kind of went back and forth a little bit, is just so exceptionally realistic to the queer experience. So hauntingly beautiful, but also sad. It's it's a lot to handle, and this is all just on top of the just general other stuff that this movie has going for it. The awesome and unique animation, the phenomenal expressions. I mentioned it in the reaction, but I love expressions, and I've talked about this plenty of times in the past in other reactions and stuff. Expressions are just some of the best way to convey anything. And so I love it when a series has really good character expressions that just are not only just very expressive and great to showcase the emotions and feelings of the characters, but are also just fucking fun to look at. Are just like really entertaining, really funny, really just gorgeous. Like, I love good expressions. They're just really great to see. To see just the visual satisfaction of that. And there are so many of it, especially for Nimona herself. Um, and the shape-shifting thing as well, also very relevant to a trans person. Again, at least me, but more than likely others as well. I've said it before, but that would be the ideal superpower for me, because it's like I feel it's pretty obvious, but to just put it into words, I'm I'm a trans person and I have body dysphoria. That should be enough of an explanation as to why I would want shape shifting. um, but also, just to put it simply, it's like there's so many things with my body that I would love to change. Like, so many things that I would change to make myself feel more like the girl I am and everything. And don't get me wrong, I always stand by the idea that it's like the body I'm born with is a girl's body. And the body any trans woman is born with is the body any trans man is born with is a man's body. The body that any NB is born with is an NB's body. No matter what it looks like, no matter what parts you have or don't. But I also can't deny that with body dysmorphia and everything, it's like there's just certain things that you personally want, and there's certain things that you might like not like about your body, and that's perfectly fine. That doesn't mean that my body's not a girl's body. It very much is. It just means that there's things about it that I would personally rather have changed if I could. And unfortunately, getting the surgeries and shit is expensive as fuck. But yeah, yeah, it's there's a lot in this movie regarding this, and a lot that just feels very close to home. The voice acting was all great. Like everyone did a fantastic job. No one felt like they were too over the top. Even Chloe Grace Moretz, whose character is very over the top on purpose. It's like she didn't. Her performance wasn't, if that makes any sense. Like for as much as some of the scenes were and the characters' dialogue was over the top, the acting performance from Chloe Grace Moretz was actually just perfectly handled. Um, and everyone else as well, of course. I actually like that there wasn't like this huge twist by the end, outside of the fact that that Nimona and what's her face, Glorith, knew each other. But that one, honestly, I kind of saw coming. To For a little bit before that was revealed, I was kind of putting that together, especially after the scroll was revealed. Um, but there was no like big secondary twist villain or anything. Like we weren't given a twist like, oh, it's not really the director, it's actually someone else. Like it was the squire all along. No, we're never given anything stupid like that. Instead, we find out that it's the director pretty much like halfway through the movie, I would say, probably. And then it's just like, no, that's just it. There's nothing else, no big surprises to that. She's just the bad guy. She's just terrible. It's that simple. And it's instead of trying to do something different at that point, they really hammer it in. They just keep showing you more and more as it progresses how terrible she is, and even how much of a hold she has over the likes of oh my god, his name is escaping me right now. I had his name down too. I had the names Ballister's boyfriend. I can't think of his name right now. But like showing the stranglehold she had over him and everything. Yeah, it's wild. And yeah, so the scroll and everything wasn't fake, but it like shows like that's why she was like staring at Nimona, and it's like she seemed like she knew her or something. It's like she had seen that scroll before and everything. So yeah, and like I said, I like the fact that in the end there was like kind of no redemption like known about for Glorith, because it just shows that sometimes people are led down the wrong paths and it's not fixed. That's not like they're not redeemed in the end. Glorith was accepting and a friend at first, but her family and those around her influenced her to turn away from that, and she never recovered. And that's realistic, unfortunately. That's very realistic. Because kids are oftentimes just very openly accepting. Kids are naturally accepting of just everyone because they don't have a reason not to be. The only reason they end up turning against ideas like that is because of what they're taught. Their parents or schools or churches or other influences lead them to believe in things that they would not naturally come to the conclusion of. And it's terrible. And I can also speak for that because I've been someone who was there. Again, that's the entire reason why I was so aggressively anti-queer in the past because I was literally trying to force that idea off of myself because of what people had taught and raised me into believing. I was trying so hard to force the idea away that I could be queer, that I could be trans, even though at the time I didn't know what the word trans was. But I was throwing off that idea so much that I weaponized it against others. And I'm still regretting that. Even though it's been years and years, even before I came out, it was years since I had thought that way. At least a couple years before that. And luckily I've changed, but not everyone does. Not everyone gets out of that. A lot of people are just brainwashed into those terrible, outdated beliefs still to this day. That's why you still see so many people, even young people, turning against the queer community. And various other communities as well that kind of fit into this too. Yeah, it's just, there's a lot there. And a lot that really needed to be touched on. And again, even outside of just the themes and ideas of this and how well they were handled, it's like it's also just super entertaining. You also have just the fun, the chaos, the animation really adds to it. You have the excitement, the amazing soundtrack. Like again, that's exactly my kind of music. That kind of punk rock soundtrack is like, yeah, that's my kind of music. But everything kind of had this energy to it that just really gets your blood pumping, really gets you excited. And so I'm just having a blast watching this because it's fun, it's entertaining. Nimona is an absolute menace, and I love it. I absolutely adore her. And I love that Ballister is kind of the voice of reason, but also kind of gives into his goofy and chaotic side at points in the movie, especially by the end. It's like that's great to see because you see his development. You see how he changes from basically what he was raised into being to someone that he chooses to be. And the entire thing at the end, like with her revealing she's alive off screen and everything, it's like, yes, because we've never seen that trope before. Seriously, that is such a trope. Revealing that the person is alive in some way and everything at the very end, but showing it off screen so that you're just seeing the reaction of someone who sees them. Like even Klaus, which I praise that movie to high heaven, fell to that trap as well. Klaus did that. There was something else I'm trying to think of that did that as well. I don't know if it's something I reacted to, but there was something else where it's at the very end that came into play. But either way, like the way it's like he hears the knock on the door, he goes to check it, there's no one there, but then when he closes it and goes back in, he like turns around and is like, hey boss, and he just like lights up and starts to say holy shit. Yeah, it's like that's just perfect. It's just perfect for this kind of movie, but it still falls into that trope. It undeniably does. And it's like, I kind of wish they didn't do that. I kind of wish that she just survived the Phoenix attack on the cannon and everything and just like was just still there at that point. Like, I kind of wish that they didn't like feel the need to just go down and do that trope again because it's like, again, we've seen it. It's nothing new. It's a little silly, honestly. Because we knew she was going to survive. I mean, hell, She turned into a fucking phoenix. Do you know what the phoenix represents? The phoenix represents rebirth. It's literally a symbol of rebirth. The idea that she turns into a phoenix, destroys the canon, and very much kills the director, and then she just dies and is gone for good. It's like, no. There's literally a 0% chance of that happening. So that instead they just went with the trope and everything, and it's like, you didn't need to do that. It works, don't get me wrong, and it's good, but you didn't need to do that. I just feel like it was needless. That's all I'm saying. And I'm hoping that this means there's going to be a sequel at some point in the future, because it definitely sets up for a sequel. There's definitely a lot more they could do. Definitely different storylines they could run with. There's very much room for another one of these. I don't know if there's plans or anything for one at the moment, but I would hope that they could do something. Hell, I'd even accept like them doing a series. Like doing something like the Arlo the Alligator Boy stuff. Like they made the movie and then they came out with a series shortly after that continues off of the events of the movie and everything. Well, I haven't seen the series for that yet. I will definitely be reacting to that at some point. I would love to see something like that for this. Or even just another movie would be fine. But I definitely want more. Because this is really good. Like, really good. Obviously, for all of the big important stuff, the themes and the metaphors towards the queer community, how it all connects and all, but also just because of just how good it is as a movie, as a piece of entertainment. There's just really good jokes, really good music, really good fun moments between the characters. It's like that's a big reason to want to see more. Obviously this just came out today, so I don't know like what people think about it overall. I don't know like if it's doing well. I don't know. But I'm hoping that some other people, some other reactors or whatnot, check this out, because I'd love to see other reactions to this. I'm glad I chose to do this, because I actually originally had another plan for today, for the second movie this week. I was originally going to do something else, but then I realized that this movie was coming out on the day that I would be recording the second movie of the week. And so it's just like, it just times perfectly. So I felt like I have to do this now. And so I'm very glad I did. Again, I'm sorry for anyone who was hoping for and expecting another Dono reward today. But this was something I did not want to wait for, because again, no one had requested it already. I don't know when someone would, so I didn't want to wait. I didn't want to I didn't want to give it any time. I wanted to see this, and yeah, it exceeded my expectations. I told you what I knew about this in the pre-thoughts. I did not know about the queer stuff. I'm actually very happy I didn't know. And hell, it might have been one of those cases where I did hear about it but forgot. But either way, I'm glad that I went into this today not knowing. Even if I just forgot, I still didn't know when I started watching this. So I'm glad, because that coming as a surprise to me as I was watching was very welcomed. Yeah. And I also like that the bad guy just died. Just no redemption, not even like anything with like, oh, you're being put in jail. No, she died. Just straight up. Sometimes that there is no other solution. Especially when these kinds of people are literally trying to call for your death. Are literally trying to take you out no matter what the consequences otherwise will be. And this is something that is very much also relatable to real life, unfortunately. But yeah, it's like, I really wish it wasn't, but there are people like that in real life who want us queer people, especially trans people, to be dead and do not care about what it will mean otherwise for it to happen. They just want it to happen, no matter what. No matter if it hurts others or not. It's really, really fucked up, but unfortunately is very real and very upsetting. And again, there's sometimes where you can maybe reason with people like this and get them to see the truth. But then there's times where nothing you will say can change things. They're just beyond saving. They're beyond hope. And unfortunately, in those kinds of situations, things need to be done. And I'm not saying go out and just kill all the haters. I'm not saying that. But if your life is genuinely in danger and someone's like trying to kill you, like you have the right to defend yourself. You have every right to defend yourself if someone is trying to kill you. Like very actively. Like some people are just haters and those people are just not really worth your time. But for the people who are very actively trying to kill you, it's like that's a little different, I feel. Yeah, it's just there's a lot about this movie that it's just you really need to think about. And again, there was no redeeming the director. She needed to die for the safety of the kingdom. Like she was endangering innocent lives, and it's like there was no way to do this otherwise. Imprisoning her would not have worked. It would not have made a difference. And honestly, if anyone ended up siding with her and possibly breaking her out, again, it could cause mass loss of life, and that's not acceptable. That's not acceptable at all. But tell me in the comments below, what did you think of Nimona? Let me know your thoughts on this wonderful, amazing movie that is basically just a giant queer allegory, while also just being an amazing film. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you thought of the voice acting, the art and animation, the expressions, the story and character work. Let me know. And thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.